Okay, you woke up today and you started a brand new adventure.
Yeah.
I mean, a really great adventure. You started your journey from fear to eternity this morning.
Yeah, that's right.
And you walked out, and you just took me into your homeschool room, which, by the way, is a fantastic room. Great big square room, books all around the walls, lots of space. You've got the chalkboard up there. I mean, it looks like a great place for a dad and a mom to teach their children. Very reminiscent of the type of experience that my wife and I have tried to give to our children when we actually are formally sitting down. Although, like yourself, we believe that home education is not just reading with books, it's the entire life experience that we give to our children. And speaking of that, do you see your children eventually integrating into the work and the mission and the ministry that God has given you and the Lord has allowed you to be part of?
I'm already seeing that my 10-year-old son, who's very good with art and graphics, I see him helping us out in the business, creating some materials that we can use for our swim clinics for kids. My daughter Abby, but she has a very servant heart and loves to help the business. She's already, joining my wife on some things and learning the computers and the system. And my 7-year-old son, he loves to help me set up the booth and sell some T-shirts at our clinics that we do. And then my 5-year-old and 3-year-old, we're still working on them. But anyway, so but we like having them all around. But it's what's so neat is we can better see that their giftings, where they need some work, but also where their strengths are. And we're very, very excited. This is the freest, most excited day we've had in a long, long time.
Tell me what today looked like. You woke up, you walked back there a couple hours ago. Your little ones were all around you. What did it look like?
Well, when I got up at 6, I wasn't in a rush to try and get the kids up to get them ready to be on someone else's schedule, the school schedule.
Was that liberating for you?
It was. It was, because I had a couple hours to myself to prepare my heart and mind to what I want to give to the kids today, which was very, very helpful. And so the kids finally, they got up at 8, kind of let them sleep in this morning the first time. And while from 7 to 8, Chantel and I went on a walk. We hadn't done that in a long time. And my wife loves going on a walk. And I learned a long time ago, happy wife, happy life. So she got her exercise in, so she's happy. And then we all met in the playroom for our devotional and for our lesson. And then they snuck out for breakfast while we're here. But it was a great morning. And I'm so excited to keep doing this. And then when we travel, we have opportunities they can go with me. And we learn so much on the road. I get to meet so many amazing people and go to so many unique places. I'm glad to share that with them as well.
I love traveling with my family. I just came back this weekend from Plano, Texas, where we were at a homeschool conference. And I was with most of my family. Some stayed behind to work on some things. My bride Belle was with me. My sons and daughters, many of them were with me. And they learn in the process of just being with Dad. And in talking on the way and seeing the sorts of things that Mom and Dad are involved in. And that's really exciting. Do your children have any sense? I mean, most children don't have any sense when their parents are engaged in big external activities like the Olympics. They don't necessarily have a sense of it. You're just Mom and your Dad, and praise God, that's the way you want it to be, of course.
Right.
But do they have any sense of the significance? My daddy is a 5-time Olympic medalist.
This was watching the Olympics the last 2 weeks was kind of the first time that all of them kind of really got the gravity of what I used to do. They're like, wow, Daddy used to do that. He was pretty good. And so that made me feel good that they finally get it. Usually they're just kind of swinging the medals around, They know I'm a fast swimmer. Daddy's really fast, and they know I teach kids. But it was funny, Luke, my 7-year-old, he was sitting there watching the Olympics, and he's like, I want to win a gold medal. He whispered to my wife. I was sitting on the other couch, so he whispered to my wife, I want to win a gold medal. And Chantel's like, well, yeah, you got to work really hard. And he's like, well, how hard do I have to do it? How many hours a day do I have to train? And Chantel's like, well, it's about 3 or 4 hours a day. And Luke's like, I'm going to train 6. I want to do it. So which was kind of sweet, just that he would share that.
Well, Josh, that's a great segue for this next question. And this to me is a sort of a watershed issue in the life of a man. And the question is perseverance, the question is determination, or the issue is determination and willingness to follow through with things. Here's the setup. To become a 5-time medalist, you devoted your life. You worked incredibly hard. I can't even imagine what your regimen was like to reach that particular point, to be the very best in the entire world. The eyes of the world were on you. To me, it's incredible. In '96, you were the only man to receive 3 gold medals of any event, any athletic event at the Atlanta Olympics. That's remarkable. Why is it that Christian parents don't put as much effort into the most important thing, the discipling of our children, that Olympic athletes put into obtaining their medals. Isn't it true that raising our children, and don't you feel this way as an Olympic athlete, is infinitely more important than even winning a gold medal? And yet our focus, our energy as a general rule isn't there. And I think part of it's vision, but can you make the contrast for me? Preparing for the Olympics, preparing to raise our children as children of the King.
Right. That's a great question, and this is a question that's actually fairly new. I've answered this question for myself just recently. You and your ministry have helped me out a great deal to cast a vision for my family. But yes, I did spend 4 or 5 hours a day, 6 days a week for 10 years to get that Olympic gold medal. And I'm glad I got one. It was really fun. I got a lot of free stuff and it was cool. But how much more important is equipping the soul and mind and heart of my children, that will go on long after these gold medals have faded.
Praise the Lord.
Is the generation that my kids will have, and then their generation. So obviously, most of us, we're in this culture, and sports is important to many people in this culture, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we got to keep it in perspective that yes, spiritual, mental comes first before physical. And, but if you're in the government school system and you're on their schedule and you're on their priorities, sometimes we don't always, doesn't always allow for God's priorities.
And of course there are lots of issues in the government school systems there. It's not simply the methodology, which is not a methodology to train an Olympic student in the sense that it's 1 on 30, it's a particular dumbed down lowest common denominator approach to training. As an Olympic athlete, you want individualized training, individualized treatment. That's what homeschoolers get. They get one-on-one focused, tailored training, which is precisely what an athlete would want if he was going into the Olympics. But even more importantly than that, what you, I believe, aspire to give is spiritual training to your children, a biblical worldview, a biblical perspective, so that every aspect of their training is bathed in a love of God and a recognition that ultimately our curriculum descends from Christ being the centerpiece of all of knowledge, truth, and wisdom.
That's right, right. The hub of the wheel is God's truth, God's love, and everything, is based off that. And so we are able to do that out of the home. Now, I grew up in a public school, and I felt like I learned a lot, I had some good coaching, and I had some opportunities available to me. But the seasons of my life, when I look back in the last 35 years, where I had the most significant life change, spiritually and sports-wise, were when I had some one-on-one training. I had one-on-one discipleship with some guys in college, some older men in college who spoke into my life. And that's when I gave my life to Christ and I was discipled. And it was one-on-one or 1-on-3 in a Bible study. When I had the significant progress in my swimming, it was when it was, basically 1-to-1 with a coach or in a smaller team. So the principle is, how much more could I have learned? How much more could I have done? And so hopefully we can give that to our kids, is that more, intimate environment where they really snatch on to our values and to God's truth.
Let's go back to this issue of discipline for just a second. It takes incredible discipline to be a serious contender as an athlete. It takes great discipline to aspire to great things in raising our children. It means we've got to get up in the morning. It means we've got to read the Bible every day. It means that we have to follow through on discipline. It means we've got to love them. It means we've got to be there for them. We're talking a really incredible commitment, and I don't know that everyone in our culture is willing to make that commitment. We make commitments for lots of other things, but not necessarily for this thing. Has being an Olympic athlete prepared you mentally in some way for this new step of your life, the discipline of just completely pouring your heart and life into your children?
Absolutely.